And I'm interested in growing the EOSIO ecosystem because it says a lot that Wax, FIO, Proton, Europe Chain, Ultra, they're all built on EOSIO. You know, they didn't clone Ethereum or Cardano or anything else. So I really do think we have the best technology, and I mean the proof is that so many disparate projects, from enterprise to gaming to NFTs, have chosen to use it.
It's time to talk about block producers on EOS. Who are they? What do they do? And why do they do it? In this series, I will highlight the various block producers in EOS, either of the top 21 who produce the blocks, or of the many standby producers waiting in the wings.
Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm here with Roman and Sudip from CryptoLions, a block producer in the EOS ecosystem that have been around since the very beginning of the EOS launch. They've done a lot of great things, namely, I think simple assets is one of the standout features that I've heard about from the community, but you're here to tell me more about yourselves, which is great. So thanks for taking the time to be here. And I'll just start with, if you don't mind, just give us a little bit of a background of each of yourselves, just so we kind of get to know you a little better.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having us. CryptoLions has 3 co-founders, the third being Block.One, who's on some much-deserved vacation right now. He was formerly head of IT of a company that worked a lot with Ericsson. I was a longtime friend of his. I knew him for about a decade before we formed CryptoLions. I was sort of an entrepreneur and an early Bitcoin evangelist. Block.One and I built a Bitcoin casino together all the way back in 2013, but it never made any money. We were a little late to the game, following in the footsteps of Satoshi Dice, for anyone who's been around that long. And Sudip was a good friend of ours, also based in Ukraine, and he had sort of a more business-oriented IT background. So I think it's been a really great partnership with the 3 of us. We seem to each have unique abilities that complement the other.
Perfect. Yeah, well, that's the best kind of team, right? You can leverage each of your respective skill sets and complement what the others don't have. So that's great. And Sudip, how about yourself?
Thanks for having us. I have been in the space of enterprise IT infrastructure from 2007, and around 2016, 15, 16, I moved into a project with a crypto wallet company. And after that, Roman and Bogdan invited me to explore EOS. That's how I joined the EOSIO scene. Yeah, and my background has been more about business regulations and finances. And since crypto still is a tricky topic for tax and legal issues, so that's where I operate. And we have been operating with a legal entity in Germany, CryptoLions GmbH. We have been doing lots of outsourcing work through it. So it was quite a challenge to create a company in a regulated space. So yeah, that has been my story with CryptoLions.
That's wise of you to follow the regulated path and keep yourself out of jail. Well done. Or the IRS jail, or the equivalent in Ukraine, I suppose. And then, okay, so that's great. And then perhaps just, now tell us about your BP in general, the history of CryptoLions.
Well, I think early on, we were certainly defined by the Jungle testnet. It wasn't the first testnet, but it was the first one. It was actually not just testnet. It was the first EOSIO public chain that allowed people to deploy smart contracts, older than the mainnet. And that sort of just became a focal point. The guys who did the other testnets, I think Superhero testnet was the first one, made by Eric from Sweden, who's awesome. He just went on to concern himself with other parts of the launch, other parts of the startup. He was involved with a little group that called themselves the Ghostbusters. who wanted to launch the mainnet in a certain way, and we stayed focused on the testnet. And Jungle just became such a community. Dan Larimer would pop in there, ask some questions about how things are going, whether certain things have been tested. We got to know almost all of the early VPs, because everyone was, coming in and out of the Jungle, figuring out how to use the upgrades when there was no documentation yet. In the Jungle, we did some crazy recoveries from all kinds of creative attacks that were launched against the Jungle. One time somebody milked the faucet of Jungle tokens. We had like a public faucet, and they must have spent like 6 months milking it. So I really kind of admire the dedication that it took to pull this off. And then they used all those tokens to just elect a whole bunch of non-existent block producers and basically stop the chain. So we had to recover from that by setting the chain back to a checkpoint earlier. And it's just been a great learning environment. It's been a great testing environment for dApps. And that kind of continues to be one of our hallmark products as a block producer.
Right on. And but you guys have done from the beginning, you've also, and then maybe do you want to talk a little bit about simple assets? I guess we can get into what you're most proud of. That might be, well, the next question is, what are you most proud of? So perhaps, what are you most proud of, the CryptoLions VP?
I would say two things. One is simple assets. It was the first NFT standard for EOSIO. It was working in February of 2019, and it continues to be in wide use, though it is no longer the most popular standard. So that's one thing. Second thing is just like early infrastructure, and I would include in that Jungle, which was the most popular testnet, and I think still might be the most popular testnet. It's just been a great place for exploration, as I mentioned. We also made the go-to monitor in the early days, like before there was a Block.IO, everyone would go to EOSNetworkMonitor.com, which is still up. We were really flattered. We got a photograph. Yeah, there it is, still plugging away. We got a photograph of Thomas Cox, and Dan Larimer took like a selfie with the monitor in the background from their office in Virginia. So that was a real thrill for us. And we made an account creation portal. So I think what we're proud of is just early on, just like solving these key problems and building the infrastructure that sort of held up the community until Blocks.io was built by EOS Cafe. And the other being simple assets, blazing the trail for NFTs on EOSIO.
I'm just curious, it's kind of outside of the question scope, but when you did build this network monitor, at the time, was it very, like, did you just kind of do it on your own? Were BPs off kind of doing their own thing, or was there much collaboration on some of these early projects?
There was a lot of collaboration in Jungle, so in some of the Telegram channels, but the EOS Network Monitor is something that Block.One built first for himself, because he was launching and relaunching the Jungle testnet, and he needed something like this. And then it just became obvious that the community needs this too, so we dressed it up a little bit and made it public. And there we go. Makes
sense. Yeah, built out of need, and
yes,
a lot of people needed it at the same time. And then, okay, great. Well, and then what can you tell us about what maybe excites you about the future of the EOS blockchain? We're over 3 years in. Lots of things have come and gone. There's certainly a lot of recent activity in with the EOS Foundation and Eden on EOS. But can you speak to what generally has you kind of keeps you going on the EOS and even EOSIO, if you'd like?
Well, we're certainly waiting to see how this worker proposal system shapes up. It has every potential to be a game changer. I think it's been a long time coming. And there's a lot of talent here. I think a lot of people have said, like, wow, everyone here is real smart. I better be on my A game. So hopefully this, the worker proposal system kind of gives a lot of that talent opportunity to build awesome stuff. Interested to see how bullish shapes up.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in growing the EOSIO ecosystem because it says a lot that Wax, FIO, Proton, Europe Chain, Ultra, they're all built on EOSIO. You know, they didn't clone Ethereum or Cardano or anything else. So I really do think we have the best technology, and I mean the proof is that so many disparate projects, from enterprise to gaming to NFTs, have chosen to use it. So it's just watching the growth kind of in all directions. It's almost too many directions now. You sort of have to just pick one and put your attention there because there's so much to keep track of.
Right on. Yeah. I was looking at your page again here, and I noticed one of your values is an interesting one. Sophrosyne. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Sophrosyne. We were going with the theme that EOS is the ancient Greek goddess of the dawn. So Sophrosyne means just level-headedness. Not being too sad when things are down, and there have been a lot of down times, and not being too high on your horse when things are going well. I think that's good advice both for entrepreneurs and for life in general.
Sophrosyne, I like it. Sophrosyne. And also, I noticed on your page here this transparency and disclosure piece, which is varies across the ecosystem. Certainly, I know there's been some complaints about maybe lack of transparency or access, but interesting to see that you're one of the few VPs making financial disclosures, and that's nice to see. Was that just a deliberate choice from the start to do that type of thing?
Yes, it was. We just wanted to ring the bell on that one. So I think we had the highest standard for financial disclosure. We were doing them quarterly for about 2 years. And I think we need to put that in the past tense, Sudip, because we did stop doing that. We have enough income as from outsourcing and from other blockchains that it just didn't make sense to keep showing the EOS mainnet versus all our expenses because it was all mixed together.
Initially, it was like monthly. That was our assumption of what this EOS scene would be. So we were expecting that from BP earnings, we would be supporting all dApps, community projects, marketing. So that was our idea, that EOS would be rolled out like that. And it was sort of an attempt to be true as much as and transparent as possible.
Well, that's great.
Then we started doing it quarterly, and then we stopped it because it was not a thing in the scene anymore.
Well, fair enough. That's right. It seems like some of the ideas from the original launch, and even with ECAF disappearing, and some of the original, we'll call it intentions that people had.
The Ricardian contract, the community constitution. There are lots of governance things that we skipped, I would say, after having some sort of stagnation.
Extreme transparency in business. Personally, I love this. This is, I think this is missing in the world, and it would make it a better place in many avenues, and not just crypto. I mean, certainly crypto allows for transparency due to very clean, especially EOS. I mean, you can see any account, you can see every transaction they made and who they made it with. And I've heard some complaints from people in, say, in Venezuela, who don't like the fact they can go to a shopkeeper, and that shopkeeper will see what exactly the person bought. Hey, why didn't you buy that for me? I see you got my competitor. What's going on there?
Interesting.
But we have been launching partners for lots of EOSIO chains. One of them being Europe Chain, which has this privacy angle. But some chains have that question in mind during the architecture of the whole thing. FIO, Proton, they are more focused on being currency and the consolidation layer. So we were launching partners with them too. And everybody has his own, I would say, approach and EOSIO fits to all these different approaches, from IoT to inverse factoring. So it's a very powerful software. And comparing, if you want to compare with something else, I don't know. I haven't found yet.
That's interesting. Do you guys spend much time sort of looking at some of the emergent chains that don't?
Before joining EOS, we were in other blockchains. So we have had experience working with foundations, grants, on a different project, working with other cryptocurrencies. And but EOS still is the, I would say, the next generation blockchain tech. We have explored other ones like Solana and what's the other one? Forgot the name. Another Ethereum fork, which is a hybrid Ethereum fork, but nothing compares to EOSIO in terms of flexibility and the fact that you can set it up. The settings are so granular, so it's quite interesting to work with EOSIO. And plus the smart contract are quite powerful, unlike other smart contract platforms.
Right, and especially some of the higher ranked platforms in terms of market cap that still don't even have smart contracts. Well, there's one that stands out in that respect.
Something that we realized, we have been working in the enterprise space. We have been working with Indian IT companies and came to know about their experience, because they have in production products for their clients. And when they found out the EOSIO, we had to do, since there was not much marketing and not much of education happening in the EOSIO scene for developers until the training portal came up. So we were doing it like individually as a BP, as a consortium. And the feedback from those big IT developers was amazing. They were very happy to see, and they were asking, why don't we know about this? Right?
Yeah.
Why is this the best kept secret in blockchain industry? So that has been the feedback from them. So I think I have high hopes for EOSIO as a software, as a development platform. Be it in the crypto public, I would say public domain, or be it private chains. It has the might.
Interesting. That seems to be the consensus from a lot of people I've spoken with, and especially block producers, where and the idea that this is more of a marathon than a sprint in terms of the crypto space in general. And there's still a lot of emergent outputs of what blockchain can do that we've still yet to really see manifest. So some of the ideas that, EOS is dead and all this sort of talk about, I mean, how many times has Bitcoin had an obituary written about it? So, obviously this is still very early, and human ego gets ahead of itself in terms of, we've got it all figured out. This is, obviously that one's dead and this is the way to go. It's like, no, there's still a long way to go here.
Having explored and seen other, I wouldn't say other crypto communities are not so great, but the level and quality of talent that EOS.io community has compared to other communities is amazing. It's not like I have a bias towards EOS and I'm giving this statement, but from my friends who were in other different crypto projects who came on board, watched it from inside, and said, like, this is amazing talent pool, and EOS has given us this great human network, I would say, apart from the software, which is quite also very, very powerful.
That's a good point. And it's interesting when you look at, like, we're focused here on EOS. I mean, I try to focus on EOS in general, but the fact that EOSIO is such a powerful thing on its, I mean, EOS is just one of the EOSIO chains. And a lot of people will say, EOS is, all the developers have left and whatever. Well, maybe, but they haven't left the ecosystem because they're still on EOSIO. So, and what do you guys think about the idea of these multiple EOSIO chains kind of working together? It sounds like you work on multiple chains and not just EOS. So is that, do you see the future where these chains start to become more intermingled in an IBC sort of way, and sort of they each might have their own particular use case and can coexist?
That's an interesting question. One thing they're definitely doing is creating a pool of talent and a pool of entrepreneurs and developers who are trained to develop on one EOSIO chain can develop on any of them. So and even like if there's a nice project on one chain, it might hop over and start functioning on another. So it's definitely doing that, sort of the rising tide lifting all boats idea. I'm not sure anyone is incentivized to build IBC. It's technically completely doable. It would be really cool. I'm not sure if anyone has the financial incentive to do it and to maintain it, other than some like relatively small like projects that are doing it just for their own sake. I think maybe there were some games that had NFTs on multiple chains and they kind of united all of that. But sort of to do it in a general way, totally possible. Not sure somebody will be incentivized to do it.
Hopefully, with this new worker proposal system that's is happening, I think few really good projects that had been like pushed to back burner, just not because the funding was not there. It was not the case that we didn't need it. We still need it, but it was pushed to the back burner because there was not much funding, and we had we had other priorities to stay afloat, run the company, keep the developers happy, pay the salaries. So with the foundation and everything, this new attempt, hopefully all these blank spots would be filled now.
Yeah. Well, you make a good point. You both make great points, because in terms of the financial incentive, it may not be clear, but as we said earlier, this is still very early in this space, and the framework and the incentivization from different outside bodies might lead to we need to collaborate more. We need to take a piece from this chain and a piece from that and create a product that leverages both in their own respect. So I guess, and the last question I have for you both then is, what can the token holders do? And this is sort of an EOS specific question, but what can we do to help you and the EOS network in general? Is there anything that token holders should be doing more or even less of to help?
Token holders they have the ultimate way of having a say is by voting, and they should help projects, promote projects that bring value to their system, value to their investments also. So it's not like they're just voting for some strange BP who is doing nothing and bringing no value. Most of our earnings go back, are reinvested to create products, to create solutions. That has been the case. If you go back to all those block production reverse transparency reports, you will see that. We would definitely appreciate and would be thankful for votes. And in general, for the EOS ecosystem, more involvement from the token holders would be, and more active involvement from them would be very good. Instead of staying behind or being abstaining from having an opinion, it's better to have a yes or no instead of a maybe kind of stance. So yeah, looking forward to more activity from the token holders. And
I would also ask the token holders to tune in to Chris Barnes and all the awesome content that he's creating. And I would tell them to pay attention to the new projects coming out on EOS and alongside EOS, like Bullish and especially Voice, which I think is going to be awesome. And we are heavily involved in helping that project.
Perfect. Good. Well, that's we'll call that an inside scoop. That it's going to be awesome. I think a lot of us are looking forward to it. I mean, the pivot was a bit of a surprise, but that sometimes a pivot can lead to great things, like we're going to see. So, and it's also important, I think, for a lot of institutions and organizations to recognize when you're kind of running up against a brick wall. Don't just keep smashing your head against something and hope you get through it. You'll end up with more bruises than you will success. So you need to turn to get around the obstacle. That's awesome. Well, great. I thank you both very much again, Sudip, Roman. This has been excellent. I'm a big fan of your BP. I really appreciate your early efforts, especially in the transparency piece. That's really important to me. I think there's, this idea of radical transparency, or extreme transparency, as you call it, is hopefully it comes back. Hopefully there's a resurgence of this type of approach. And as I start to work through more BPs like yourselves, I hope to I'm going to aggregate all this information and make it more apparent and visible to the token holders. And Sudip, like you said, we want to get token holders to be more involved and engaged. And part of that is just providing them with more ease of information access, and give them a reason to maybe pull their tokens off an exchange and vote for themselves on who they'd like to see spearheading this network, as opposed to delegating that responsibility to an exchange that just happens to hold their tokens. So that's great. Thanks again, guys, for your time. Really appreciate it. And I hope to cross your paths in the real world one day. And if not, we'll do another digital one of these sometime in the future.
Definitely.
Thank you.